Well, welcome, welcome. Look at that. In just that little bit of time, people started coming in the room. Hey, Aisha. And we're recording and we're streaming to YouTube. And ladies, I think we're ready to go. All right, so let's do this. Hi, Aisha. Hi, Camille. Camille, hey, girl. Hey, Christian. I gotta say hi to all the people that just came in. Hi, Haley. Hey, Hannah. Hey, Jayla. Hey, Jocelyn. Juanita. Kenya. Lupita. Oh my gosh, so many familiar names. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a whole month. And it has been. Welcome back. Welcome back to Enhancing and Empowering Conversations for Positive Change. This is our wonderful webinar series where we bring great people to you with great information so that you can create positive change. You get to be the person, you get to be the change you want to be in your own families through these conversations. And so today, you're in for a treat. Okay, you're in for a treat today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to go over the ways to engage. When you're ready to speak, raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. Also, you'll be able to either unmute um, and and come on, right, and show your wonderful, beautiful, handsome face, or you can just stay in the chat and that's good too. But if you're making comments in the group chat, make sure it's going to everyone, right? Hit that carrot and make sure, otherwise it's going to go to the panelists and we're busy. So send it to everybody else, okay? And be patient with us. We are supposed to have a really nice group today. So, and when you guys start talking, because you guys are really active, sometimes it eats up the time. Hey, Linda from Houston, Texas. I hope you're okay. You're on here, so you survived Burrow. Woo, welcome. All right, next slide. Thanks, Lori. These are our agreements. You guys know how we do. We love our agreements. It's our way of encouraging you to be brave and to lean into these great conversations we have and to the whatever you're learning today. So we ask you to speak from your own experience. Those, my experience has been how this usually works for me, blah, blah, blah. Follow the golden rule. And, this is the way we wrap up all of our agreements with a nice little bow, is because we're not giving advice and we're not judging people, because you can get that in social media, all that great stuff. Okay, so remember that. And then full presence, please, no multitasking. I know you're online. You can do a lot of stuff. You can check your emails and all that stuff. You can even play Candy Crush and be on Facebook. But right now, don't do that. Otherwise, you're going to miss some amazing, amazing stuff. Guys, this stuff is hot today. Don't do other stuff. Stay focused. No multitasking. And if you need a minute, take a minute. If you need to go out, and it's lunchtime, so I know you're probably eating. Or if you get emotional, take a minute, come back whenever you're ready. We're right here waiting on you, ready to do this thing with you. All right. I can't forget. Put agree. If you agree, put agree in the chat. Let's see. I don't see any agrees in the chat. If you agree to keep this space safe, drop them. Yay! Okay, I feel so good. I feel like I'm ready to just pour out my heart because the space is safe. I'm ready to lean into today's conversation. All right, go next slide. Lori, please. Thank you. Today we are here for leading from the heart, exploring your authentic feminine leadership with two amazing presenters today. Guys, this doesn't happen often, that we have our CEO here with us, but she is here today and she has brought a friend and they have prepared an amazing webinar for you today. So you were in for a treat. Let me introduce myself for those of you who do not know me. I'm Sarita Sashton. I'm the Director of Engagement and Program Initiatives here at Be Strong Families. And with us today is Monica Monet and Kathy Leigh Goetz. I want to say, I'm going the other way, right? And remember, Kathy Goetz, okay? All right. And they're going to introduce themselves. I'm going to turn it over to these ladies, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy with you guys today, leading from the heart, exploring your authentic feminine leadership. I'll be right here if you need me. Lori, next slide.
Thank you so much, Sarita. Thank you for the warm welcome and introduction. We love the way you get the energy started. It's awesome. So, and we just want to, Monica and I want to welcome you as well. And let's go to the next slide. So today, as Sarita said, we're talking about leading from the heart, exploring your authentic feminine leadership. Next slide. And here we are, and you can read about our bios, but I'm going to tell you a little story about how we met. Both of us are involved in a program called Inspired Women Lead, and it's free, and you can get involved in it too. We're going to have a link later on. But we met because it's a peer mentoring program with a global network. And I was accepted into the program about a little more than a year ago, I think. And so the first 6 months you're paired with someone, and I was paired with Monica as my mentor. And Monica and I went through the curriculum together, and then we remained friends. And one of the things that Inspired Women Lead encourages is that all the graduates, are committed to sharing authentic feminine leadership with as many people, and especially women, as they can. So Monica and I were thinking about how can we do this, and we've been working together for the past number of months to develop this a workshop series that you'll hear about, and also this webinar. Monica, is there anything you want to say about yourself or our relationship before I go on?
Yes, I would love to say good morning to everyone firstly, and then also to say I had the pleasure to meet with you, Kathy, so that we are here today. It's exciting. And I also wanted to mention that authentic feminine leadership is something that we develop together. We grow together and we flourish together. So it's an exciting topic that you can't get enough about. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Monica. And just so you know, everybody, Monica is coming to us from France. Yes?
Actually, I'm Swedish
I
originally.
know you're Swedish, but
and I live in France, but I
Yes.
work in Switzerland. So lots of countries.
So where are you sitting right now? In France?
Right now, I'm sitting at my home in France. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, but anyway, she's in Europe and I'm in Chicago. So there is a time difference, and we're grateful for Monica sharing her evening with us. It's the end of the day for her and the midday for us. So
it's a pleasure being here, Kathy.
Okay, so let's get started. Let's get started with the content. So, okay. I think I was saying that there's a workshop series that we developed together coming up, and that's going to be in later September and early October. And today we're going to just give you an intro into kind of the definition of authentic feminine leadership, and get you really thinking about it and grounded in your own experience with authentic feminine leadership. And we're going to explicitly talk about inspiration from our grandmothers. Next slide. So when we start out, this is a Be Strong Families thing. When we start out defining leadership, what's really important for this is that it's not necessarily the person in the front of the room. It's not necessarily the CEO. It is broader than that. And when the Be Strong Families believes that you lead with your energy. And so the question I would put to you in the chat is, when you think of masculine energy, what do you think of? If I were to say masculine energy or feminine energy, what do you think of when you think of masculine energy? Unbending. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to be watching the chat, Sarita. We agreed.
Hard and powerful, coordinates, control, tough, masculine and strong, giving, hard, strong, dominance, non-emotional, strong, provider, directive, aggressive.
And we know this is great. My way or the highway.
Yeah.
We're not talking about necessarily men and women or male bodies and female bodies when we talk about energy. We're talking about culturally, and specifically in the West, kind of like what modes people are in when they're in leadership. And a lot of times people associate masculine energy as the same thing as leadership energy, you know, and they look at what we consider traditionally feminine qualities. So, feminine energy, that's often like an oxymoron to leadership, you know, like that you don't lead with that. So, what does feminine energy, what are the qualities of feminine energy to you? Some qualities: nurturing,
Leader, headstrong, feminine
super
energy,
adaptable,
super
flexible,
adaptable,
compassion. Yeah, loving.
loving.
And in the
Mm.
past, like traditionally, those kinds of things were not thought of as being qualities that were valued that much in business, right? And it's changing, but they weren't necessarily valued. So, just to back up a minute, our definition of leadership for today and always with Be Strong Families is motivating and inspiring ourselves and others to action. So, when we say that, we mean that everybody is a leader, you know, because you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth and you get yourself to work, you're leading yourself, right? Or if you have children in your home, you know that you are motivating and inspiring them to act. And even if you're like wherever you are in the hierarchy of your organization, there are people that you motivate and inspire to act. So when you're in that mode, you're a leader. Would anyone like to share an example, or who would like to share an example of this kind of leadership, motivating, inspiring ourselves and others to action? If you share maybe a time when you feel like you were really in that mode of motivating and inspiring people to action, how did you do it?
Can I chime in?
Yeah, of course.
This makes me think of a time when I had just had a hysterectomy and I started gaining weight, and I wasn't expecting I was going to gain weight, and I couldn't find a way to lose weight. And I started a walking group with the parents at my school. But I knew if in order for me to motivate and inspire myself to do it, I had to be in charge of it, because then I would feel committed to the people, and then we would actually do it. And so we did it for about a good 8 months. I was very proud because when I didn't want to do it, I would remind myself that there were people waiting for me. So I had to get up and I had to go, and and people lost. I lost too. It made me feel good. So it made me
Thank you
think of.
for sharing that, Sarita. And when you think about how you motivated and inspired others to walk with you, I love the example of you're motivating and inspiring yourself by getting others involved and being the leader of it. You can't let other people down, and that's a big motivator for you. But what do you think you did to inspire them or motivate them to walk with you? How do you do that?
Um, I talked about myself and how I was trying to get my sexy back, and asked if anybody else was trying to get their sexy back. And if they were, then they should join me, because I was going to be at this place on Mondays at 8 a.m. before school started. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning before school started. And other people were like, okay, yes, I want to get my sexy back too. So, and some of them were like grandmas who were like 70 something years old, but they were, wanted to get their sexy back. And so they joined me on the track.
Cool. Other people want to
Um,
share? We have some.
Tasha said, for me, I work beside my team. I don't lead ahead and have them follow. We work together in our mission side by side. Jocelyn said, I never realized that is also a quality I have. And then Rebecca said, influence. And Nina said, true leaders empower others to shine. And Nina also said, making people feel important by recognizing their individual strengths.
Nice. Well, I know we have a lot of leaders in the room.
Wait, Lupita, she said, I invited folks to my 2-hour exercise party. Woo, my birthday coming up. We'll see who shows up.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go to the next slide and think about traditionally feminine traits in leadership. And when we've done workshops before, when we ask people for role models, a lot of people referred to their grandmother as a role model, as a feminine leader role model. So we thought we would bring that assumption into today and ask you all, thinking about your grandmother, what qualities do you associate with her as a leader in your family or as a role model for you? And you can put this in the chat, and then we're also going to ask for someone or a few people to have stories to share about their grandmothers as role models or as leaders in your family.
And if you raise your hand, you can come on screen and share your story that way. Okay, that's also an option. So feel free.
Thinking about your grandmother, what qualities do you associate with your grandmother as a leader in your family? And
Linda
as a
says
role
strong and
model for you?
independent, making sure everyone is fed and cared for. Sarah said making sure everyone is fed and cared for.
And my
Anybody
grandmother,
want to join us on camera? Okay, go ahead, look, Kathy.
oh, does somebody want to join us?
No, they're still writing in the chat. No brave people yet. But Tasha said her grandmother was the first woman to go to college in her family. She was a trailblazer. Aisha said she was so soft, but also no nonsense. She said what she meant and what she wanted and got exactly that. Cleo Liz said she was the glue for our family. She was a backbone of the family. She took charge of the family of 12. Woo! Baby, I bet she did. Desiree said both my grandmothers were so strong. They had adversities that they had to overcome. They raised multiple children, worked, and I don't recall anything but good memories talked about by their children. My grandmother was supportive, nurturing, and caring. Kenya, she was adored by the whole town in Mexico, by her whole town in Mexico. Yep. And again, if you want to come on, screen, you can do that. Just raise your hand and we'll open your mic. Camille, she was a go-getter. She worked very hard for what she had and was so proud of herself, owned her own business as an adult, had her dream house and car all in the second grade education.
Wow.
Boom.
Rochelle
Drop
Brown
the
has raised
mic.
her hand, Sarita.
Okay. Want to see Rochelle?
Yeah.
Lorraine, you open her up.
Yes, ma'am. She may speak whenever she'd like.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
Good morning, ladies, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. My grandmother was so soft and sweet and nurturing and kind. My grandfather took good care of my grandmother. My grandmother did not have to work at all. She took care of the family. She had made sure that food was on the table. And the best part is when I was 9 years old, I always say I had my mom 0 to 9, and then grandma and grandpa, we had to move in with them when we were 9 years old. So not only did she have to take care of her grown adult children who were alcoholics and drug addicts, she took great care of us. My grandma was like everything to me. I looked up to her, and I know how to cook. I know how, well, I know how to clean. I know how to straighten up real good, okay? I'm a good straightener upper. Now I'm gonna put it in place, but getting down, scrubbing and all that in. But she taught us that. She taught me how to be womanly, how to take care of my body, how to take care of my mind. I was the first one in my family to go off to college. I'm the first one in my family. I'm 53 in a few days, July 29th, and I still have no children. And because I helped raise my younger brothers and sisters. I have 3 over me and 3 under me. And the nurturing that I provided to them come from, grandma. So I had to help with the homework, comb their little hair, help get their school clothes ready. So I kind of looked at my grandma like kind of giving her a rest from us, basically, you know what I'm saying? Because my mom, she called her Patton Turner, patting them streets and turning those corners. And the great thing about my grandma was whenever my mama turned that corner to come home, we had to respect that mother. Where instead of saying, Grandma, can we go outside to play? Or we called her Mama. can we go? She said, your mama in there, go ask your mama. And we'd be like, Grandma, mama, she ain't been here in 3 weeks. What you mean? Go in there and go in there and talk to your mama. Go ask your mama. So she gave my mother permission to still be a mom while in her self, because I guess my mom was I didn't guess, she was in abusive marriage to the younger brother's siblings. And so my grandma still allowed her to, nurture us in her way. It was different from grandma's, but I learned from two. My mama was like very strong and very, that's where I get that part from. Standing, tall for,
Mhm.
whatever it is that she believed in. But back to grandma and the nurturing part and just learning how to, become a young lady, be feminine, act like a lady at all times, no matter what is going on. You put yourself in a position to, be seen as a woman of God. And she is the first one. It come to my little sister, guys. She remember everything. When I say everything, y'all, I mean everything about our childhood. And I kind of forgot. And we were talking about church. We're both faith-filled women, women of God.
Mhm.
With we love the Lord. And we were just talking, and she said, because I said, yeah, remember when I went and got baptized? And I just said, why did I go down to the church? She said, because mama told us to go down there and you were the first one. Like, it's like I've been the first one in everything in my family, right? And I love that.
Mhm.
And so my grandma said, go get baptized. I didn't ask a question. I didn't know what it was, but I
Mm.
went. And I'm glad that I did that, because it set my life up to know that there's a God who loves me and is going to provide for me and take care of me and treat me better than my grandma. So I just learned a lot of nurturing, sweet, kind things, from my grandma that I still instill today. I'm a nurturer, although I have no children, but I run a foster family agency,
Mm. Okay.
17 years in the foster care business. So started off as a
Thank
social
you.
worker, moved to supervisor, and now I'm the administrator for 9 years now. So being able to have compassion for the families and
Mhm.
children that we work for, because sometimes, I grew up back in the day. You need to go get the switch off and pick the switch and the right switch. We can't do that nowadays. So you have to have compassion with the parents and even with
Mhm.
the kids for
Right.
to redirect them in that behavior. So I always kind of just think about, growing up, with my granny and how, she
Mhm.
taught, how, the things that she taught
Thank
me.
you. Thank you
So
so much for
thank you.
sharing,
I can go
Rochelle.
on.
Thank you
Sorry,
so much
y'all.
for sharing. Your grandmother sounds like an
Thank
amazing
you.
woman and very, very strong, but also compassionate and caring, and can see that her legacy is carried on in you. We've
Thank
got other people in the chat that have written since then, right? Sarita, do you want to do that, or you want me?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Sheena said determination, doing what needs to be done. Her grandmother raised her mom and three siblings after the granddad left. She went to college when her youngest child started college. Wow. My grandmother was a rather harsh woman, to be honest, but there was a power she carried that I always wished I could embody without pushing people away. That was Jocelyn. Jennifer said, very strong and independent, and raised me to not be intimidated and not to be scared of doing things on my own. Nina said she took care of everyone, never remember her sitting. Not sure if that's a good thing, though.
Mhm. A lot of
So that's
information, a
what we
lot
have
of,
in the chat.
yeah, very nice sharing. I'm amazed because the grandmothers are really close to our hearts, and you can feel that, yeah, they will live with us forever. I mean, until we will close our eyes, and it's amazing. Thank you so much for all the stories and all the sharing. Um, I think I can share also if we go to the next slide, we can share the approach that we have defined together with Kathy. So authentic feminine leadership is an approach to leadership that values and incorporates traditionally feminine qualities and characteristics into leadership roles. It is a response to the historically male-dominated leadership paradigm and seeks to bring a more balanced and inclusive perspective to leadership. So let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to put a caveat in here because as I was listening to
Please.
stories of people's grandmothers, I think that there is a cultural thing going on as well. And when we're talking about traditionally, I mean, a lot of cultures are traditionally matriarch, centered, and women in those cultures have more power, in terms of their influence, and also the expanded notion of what feminine means. I think I see the power being there. I think so. In some ways, when we say the historically male-dominated leadership paradigm, we're talking about Western. I don't. We're talking about Western. We're talking about white a lot. Like we're talking about the business culture, the corporate culture, and the way that the corporate culture tends to not necessarily respect feminine qualities, qualities that are traditionally associated with feminine energy or with women. Does anybody, are you hearing what I'm saying, Sarita? Do you see where I'm going here a little bit? You're on mute.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I understand. It's interesting. As people were talking earlier, I didn't know I was thinking as you were talking earlier, I was thinking, oh, it's just the way that we had the opportunity, the Be Strong families, to actually go through the full training. So it's pretty cool. But I definitely could see how or understand how you can show up feminine or masculine in the workplace, or you know and it's more than, yes, it's the feminine side of being like kind and gentle and not wanting to offend people. So you take a lot of stuff that you shouldn't take sometimes. Or it can also, with the masculine part, might be that I, well, some might say masculine, that I stand my ground and I don't step aside for anybody. I don't, apologize and not want to offend people. I very firmly stand my ground, say what I mean what I say, and run over a bunch of people, and I don't think about, the rest of it. And so, yeah, that resonated with me when you were talking about it earlier. Yeah, I'm with you.
Sorry to interrupt, Monica.
I'm learning.
It's okay. It's fine. It's very, very rich. I like it. If we go to the next slide, I think there we will share some key qualities that we associate with authentic feminine leadership. So you have empathy, collaboration, emotional intelligence, intuition, inclusivity, authenticity, and resilience. Of course, these are just a few that we are mentioning. But what else? What are the other qualities that you see are belonging to authentic feminine leadership? Maybe you can use the chat.
And when people were telling me the stories of their grandmothers, I was feeling this resilience. I was feeling the authenticity, like she was who she was. She stood her ground. She stood for what she believed in. You knew what her values were. There were those kinds of themes coming through. And then also like, she didn't give up. She made it happen. Like she worked through, she had a lot of things to work through and she did it. That's resilience. And then, of course, the kindness and caring and taking care of everybody, that's where empathy and emotional intelligence comes in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have
What other
anyone?
qualities? I mean, Lori said in the chat, for a predominantly machismo culture, it'll be very interesting to see where Mexico's new female president will do for the country. I'm just wondering what other traditionally feminine key qualities associated with feminine leadership. What other things would you pull out of the stories that people were giving about their grandmothers, or in other thinking about role models, other feminine leaders that you have experienced, or yourself as a feminine leader? What are some adjectives?
I put trusting and surrender. Lori said female leaders tend to be very individual and unique. No one leader copies another female leader. Andreas, I don't know if it's traditional, but tenacity. We have inclusive and collaborative, flexibility, understanding, logical yet creative, understanding.
And with my mentee, and this struck me with after Monica, I had a mentee in the Inspired Women Lead, and she said that she was an executive in the tech industry, and she said that what she saw from women that she supervised was that the women were willing to speak truth to power, that the women were willing to stand for what was right and to say what they saw, and the men were more likely to just go along with what the boss, was thinking or feeling or saying. And I thought that was interesting, that she saw that as a traditionally feminine quality, standing for your beliefs and your
Yeah, I
perspective.
I'm
agree. And I
thinking
also,
though,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about I put trusting. And I guess when I put trusting, I'm thinking about the difference between female leaders or female bosses that I've had versus male bosses in the space of trusting. When you have to figure something out, when something needs to happen, when the organization needs to move forward, and if it isn't coming together the way that you want it to come together, I've seen females trust like it'll work out, it'll come together. I've seen men do a bunch of crazy stuff to try to, make put um round pegs in square holes to try to make stuff happen, do illegal stuff trying to make stuff happen instead of like trusting that if we just keep doing, and we do more of what we're already doing, that it'll come to pass. So I think trusting was one that I was sort of thinking about as you guys were talking.
I think that's a key one, actually, Sarita. Absolutely. I came to think also about adaptability. To be flexible is also for me something that we can add to the list. And then I was also thinking about courage. You need to have courage and stand up for your opinions and be transparent as well around what your thoughts are and speak up. I think that's also something that we can
And then
Great.
Nina said, working for a male boss for most of my life and now working for a female boss is the first time I have been validated and
Wow.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. And when we are looking at all these qualities, the question that comes up to me is like, what is beyond the feeling good of being or having those qualities? How are these words translated into the workspace and into a family for a smooth functioning? It certainly results in better functioning and better productivity and efficiency when people are treated well, when they are at their best, then they grow and flourish. I think both in the professional life as leaders, but also as leaders within the family. So if we go to the next slide now, we have some key points that we took out from an article from the Forbes. And you see the source to the left down on the slide. The first thing that we have here on this list is cultivates authenticity. For me, what brings to or comes to mind is cultivating authenticity. For me, it brings vulnerability to the table. It's okay to be your true self. Still within the boundaries, of course, of showing respect and so on. But if someone tells what is going on with them, people around them will have a greater understanding, and also, I would say, like it's going to be easier to support one another when you have this authenticity and also understanding among yourself as a team or as a family. Kathy, do you have something there
Yeah, well, the definition, and this
Mhm.
article was like, why is what Monica was saying, why is feminine leadership important? Meaning, okay, we can just say this is what's great about women, and this is what we like about women, and it feels better intuitively to have someone be inclusive and flexible and adaptable and kind and emotionally intelligent and all of that. But what difference does it make in the workplace? And why is it important that we honor these traditionally feminine modes? And the authenticity piece, like the being real, one of the major, research says that the most important thing for a team is psychological safety. That's the bedrock of a team being able to function well. And just think of yourself, if someone is willing to be real, if your leader is willing to be real, if they're willing to be vulnerable, if they're willing to share with you, who they are, what their values are, what their passions are, if they're willing to admit that they make, mistakes, or this is my personality. I tend to be a bull in a china shop. I'm a Taurus. I'm born in the year of the bull. I tend to be a little bit of a bull in a china shop, and I'm always driving for results. If you know that about me, and if I can be authentic about who I am, and I can honor and trust who I am, then you're more likely to trust me as a leader, and you're more likely to interpret my actions kindly as opposed to feeling offended. Because we all know everybody has, positives and negatives about how they show up and how they're perceived. But if we can give each other grace, if we show up real and transparent.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. I think this brings us also to the second point about prioritizing well-being. For me, prioritizing well-being is really about alignment, being able to be your true self, and also focus on how am I doing, and really acknowledge how you feel and be transparent about that. Do you have anything else to add here, Kathy?
Well, yeah, I do, because this has been a really important part of what I've tried to do at Be Strong Families. And I think of it much more practically, which is, if you understand that you're working with people and not machines, and you're working with people who have struggles in their lives and who are not always feeling at their best, that they may be, whatever they're dealing with psychologically or physically or family wise, that's going to affect how they show up in the workplace. And part of a leader is encouraging people to be well, but also trying not to put additional stress on them. Like hustle, hustle, hustle. We got to get this done. I mean, there's a time for that, but there's also a time for saying, hey, you've worked really hard this week. I think you need to flex. I think you need to take some time, and calm down, do some self-care. And as a leader, if you're prioritizing your own well-being and taking care of yourself really well, and think about, we do this in the cafes, right? Like, taking care of yourself cafe, how can you take care of anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself? So I think that just the recognition that you're going to be able to serve better, you're going to be able to be more helpful to your teammates if you are well, and that you need everybody to be as well as they can be. That's why we do vitality cafes. That's why so I don't know. That's where I go with the prioritizing well-being, is that it's really about not just, kind of trying to have tunnel vision and focus on the work. It's about trying to recognize that everybody's a person and that they need to be healthy for our team to be healthy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, Lapita, it's crucial for women experiencing menopause, also crucial for women postpartum.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just to recognize that we have hormones, we have emotions, and that those are part of what make us who we are. And it also contributes positively to the work.
It does, it does. And the third one is really related to fostering collaboration and competition, or over competition, as you also mentioned. And I think for me, I can give you the example of I used to play soccer when I was between the age of 10 and 20. And for me, collaboration was key. It started actually from there, to learn how you fight, fight, and you you try to win over the other team, but you have struggles and you support each other, you help each other, you win together and you celebrate, and sometimes you lose and then people are crying and so on. So I think that's really the advantage of having like a we spirit rather than an I spirit, to the sense of collaboration over competition. Do you want to add something there, Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with
Liliana,
you with the we spirit a lot about the it's not just me and my individual
Exactly.
accomplishments, but that if we are a team, we're going to be, and that's one of Be Strong Family's main values is collaboration. Like, how do you really collaborate? How do you really make room for it's diverse? It's also a diversity, equity, and inclusion issues for people's different styles, for different cultures, for different ways of expressing themselves, for different different superpowers. How do you make room for everybody's strengths when you're building a team that is trying to collaborate? Because I think collaboration can be like a buzzword, but in your example, everybody knows their place on the soccer team, right? And everybody's got to play their role for the team to function well. And that's part of, general teamwork too. But it's also like knowing what people bring to the collaboration and honoring that and not having it be all about me,
Yeah.
so someone in the chat said, Liliana said, what are your thoughts on the queen bee syndrome?
What does she mean by queen bee syndrome?
Liliana, would you like to come on? And Jocelyn says she likes that question. If you raise your hand, Liliana, we can unmute you. If you
Maybe we could get through this slide and then deal with that question, these two slides, and deal with that question. And we'll be done with the content. I'm just looking at the time and we have 15 minutes left. So
sounds good.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Okay, so then we have on values, intuition, and emotional intelligence. This is really like embracing our emotions and use them, I would say, as an alert or as something that we should acknowledge, accept, and also speak up. How do we feel? If something is giving us, how do you say, if we have a difficulty on something, if we sense something, if we have an emotion with it, it's important to mention or to speak up about that tension in order to be able to make other people around us understand what we mean, instead of keeping it for ourselves, so that we are accumulating things and then all of a sudden we're just bursting out in anger or something. So deal with the tension as they come, I think, is really, really key. And this is also creating psychological safety, as you mentioned before, on one of the other points, Kathy.
Yeah, and as a leader, if you're in Zoom, it's hard too, but learn to like look at somebody and see you're looking different today, or you just made a face. What's that about? It doesn't seem like you're with us. Like as a leader, like it doesn't seem like, is there something that you want to say? Because and that makes the conversation much richer. It makes it authentic, and it also makes room for the collaboration for people to show up. But you have to, as a leader, you're following you're paying attention to your own intuition about what's next, what's the next right step, and then your your emotions, what you said, Monica. That intuition piece is, as a feminine leader, is really important. Like basically trusting your gut and navigating with your gut. And if it doesn't feel right, calling it out and saying, I have a feeling we need to stop right now, and back up.
Yeah, and this is also bringing us to the key competence of active listening, right? To really listen and
Is this the next slide? Are we on?
No, this is just something that I'm adding.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We need to get to the next slide.
Yeah, we can go to the next slide, because there we have the other topic that is coming there is, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. No, the other one. The other one. Yes. So point number 5 on the slide 14 is celebrating the journey, not just the destination. And for me, this is really, really important through retrospectives. if you are doing this within your teams, it means that you are aligning when you're looking at what worked well the last period, what do we need to stop doing, and what do we need to start doing. So that you actually are aligned in the team, and then that you know where you're heading together. Do we need to change our way of working or doing, and dream kind of together, and then plan together, act together, and then celebrate. That's how I see this
I
point.
agree with you.
Yeah, anything to add there, Kathy? Or
No, I agree with you. I mean, I like the
okay.
prioritizing joy within our work and learning
Mm-hmm.
to move with intentionality, not just speed, so
Yeah,
that you're doing sustainable, so that it's sustainable
exactly. Mm-hmm.
and that people are moving in the same direction. But if you're like at a breakneck speed, and I have trouble with this sometimes because I think fast, move fast, talk fast, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
learning to slow down and learning to even the pace so that it's sustainable for everyone
Yes.
is
Yeah,
something I think is a positive about feminine leadership.
absolutely. Point number 6 is balancing strengths with vulnerability. And I think here it's yeah, I don't know if you have something that pops up for you,
Well, I know that
Kathy,
you
you want
said
to share?
vulnerability, and other people in the chat have
Mm-hmm.
said vulnerability is a
Mm-hmm.
characteristic of authentic feminine leadership
Yes.
or of feminine leadership. And I love that here we're not just saying just be vulnerable, we're saying that balancing strength with vulnerability, because a lot of the first 6 adjectives that came out about people's grandmothers were that they were
Mm-hmm.
strong.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, you're right.
like that.
Mm.
But they also said that about male leadership. Like when you say, what
Mm-hmm.
do you think of as masculine energy and leadership? It was it was about strength, you know. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
it's not about just being vulnerable, just, splitting open your veins and telling people your business and being real, in a super over, that's like a stereotype or a that I think is negative about feminine leadership, but it's not that. It is balancing your strength, understanding strength, but also balancing it with vulnerability.
Yeah, I have an exercise actually that I used to do with the team I was earlier. What we did every week was that we were going through and sharing within the group what were the learnings of the week, what were the praises that we wanted to give to our people. It could be something small, something big, but at least we were sharing something that we had seen somebody else do for us in public within the team. And then we also share the successes of the week with among ourselves. And this exercise is a simple one, but it really creates this. You're active listening to all the people. You're feeling so amazed when you hear something positive being said to you and also among the entire team. So I can really recommend that. It just popped up as an idea when I saw this now here.
Thank
So
you.
yeah. And then we have the last point, which is detaching worthiness from productivity. So for me, like we are good as we are. We need to focus on our strengths and be transparent about it. It might be that we are the right person, but in the wrong place. So if this is the case, we need to acknowledge that and accept it and make the move, have the courage to make the move. I think this is an important thing
And
that we see
and
too
from
often, that people are not moving.
Yeah, and for me,
Mm.
it's also about like, I don't know, there's 4 agreements. One of them is always do your best. And the
Mm.
understanding of always do your best is that your best can be different on different days, depending on what's going on, in your life.
Yeah.
So you can't expect people to be able to work at a breakneck pace all the time. They're not always going to be able to be relentless. You don't want an unhealthy work ethic. So you want
Mm.
to keep people motivated to do a
Mm.
good job. You want, and this with your kids, you can't just be pressuring them all the time and telling them, and telling them that you need this and you need this and you need this. You have to give some fun, and you can't just say I love you because you achieve, or I value you as an employee because you're achieving and you're doing. You can't do it all the time. Nobody can. So you
Mm.
have to like invest. I mean, this is the thing that I get dinged for all the time. But when I invest in the people who are there and I believe in their inherent value and worth for what we're doing, and that doesn't necessarily, if they have a rough couple months, I'm understanding about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's part of this detaching worthiness from productivity. Because if you're always expecting the same level of productivity from your people all the time, you're going to be disappointed and you're going to burn them out. So I can go back to what Liliana asked about the queen bee, because I see she put in the chat that there's this sense that female leaders doing the opposite of a good leader when it comes to their women subordinates. And what I would say first off is that we're not talking about females versus males when we're talking about this. We're talking about traditionally feminine characteristics versus traditionally masculine characteristics in leadership. So there can be men, I mean, I would encourage you to think about this, men who are great, authentic feminine leaders,
Mm-hmm.
who are emotionally intelligent. I mean, I had a therapist for a long time who was a man, most emotionally intelligent person I knew. So I don't think emotional intelligence is only in female bodies, So you think about good leadership and what is good leadership and these qualities that are traditionally feminine, being injected into them. So I think that anybody who is discriminating against the people that they are in charge of leading based on their sex, their gender, or their race, or their ethnicity, or their religion is not operating in according to even the law or good employment practice. So I would think that would qualify as a certain subcategory of sexual harassment. If somebody is discriminating against people because they are a specific gender. That's what I would say about queen bee syndrome as you've defined it. I don't know, Monica, if you have thoughts about that.
No, not really. I'm really mindful about the time right now.
Okay.
I see that we are over time, so if we can, we could have that discussion next time.
Sure.
I think also that we need to move on to the next slide, because here
Okay.
I wanted to show, well, actually, it's over
This
to
is
you,
where this
Kathy.
is inspired women lead. So this
Yeah.
I talked about earlier. It's how Monica and I met. And this is the URL. So encourage you to go check it out and see if you'd like to participate. Let's go to the next slide, Lori.
Yes, yes. Yeah, here I wanted to share the resources on authentic family leadership. And here we only have picked a few of them to mention, and we don't have the time to go through them all. But to mention one, we have Brené Brown, and I guess that a lot of people have heard of her. She's one of the leading authors and thought leaders related to authentic family leadership and the related concepts. She's a research professor at the University of Houston, and she's also a licensed social worker. And she's specialized in studying emotions like vulnerability, shame, and empathy, and so on. And probably have seen some of her TED Talks. There is one that is really good that is called The Power of Vulnerability. And also, I can mention this. I have a book of her. This one here. It's the Atlas of the Heart that I can show. She's mapping all the necessary skills and actionable framework for meaningful connection. So I think she's mentioning 73 or emotions, or no, even 87. Sorry, I read it on the back of the book. 87 emotions she's talking about in this book. So she's really a good reference when it comes to all these topics that are around authentic family leadership. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I would say that just what we're trying to get across here with the Forbes article, and the value of authentic feminine leadership, and with this whole list of authors, is this is not something that Monica and I are making up. This is something that's a whole field of inquiry and practice, that we're trying to kind of bring people more deeply into, because we think it's important and valuable. Right, Monica?
Yes, thank you very much.
Our intention?
Yes, absolutely.
So are we going to recognize Liliana, or are we, she has her hand up and I don't know.
Well, she had her hand up and then you answered the question. So I
Okay.
don't know if she still
Okay.
wants to or needs to
Yeah,
come up.
okay. That's great.
Okay. Yeah, I see Nina is responding, or I love Brené Brown. Yeah, I can only agree. I agree with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody did put in, like, when a man steps into their power, it's looked at with more respect, but if a woman carries herself in the same way, people see it as rude and bitchy.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I think there are also ways how you do things, right? How you show up and how you do things and how you treat people.
Yeah, and it's a point well taken that we do live in a patriarchy, and we do. I mean, it can't be underestimated, the the things that are qualities and characteristics that are valued in men sometimes aren't as valued in women, and women have to make incredible kind of moves to embody the same, so I agree with you, Jocelyn. I've experienced Jocelyn, Emily, I've experienced that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the next slide, because I think we're running out of time, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually, Kathy and I, for us, the authentic feminine leadership is such an important and inspiring topic. And like everything that we have seen today, we can see that we can develop and we can support each other, and we can also grow as leaders professionally and privately. That we already mentioned before as well. So we have this upcoming workshop series if you would like to take a deeper dive into the authentic feminine leadership. So this is really about you developing your authentic feminine leadership and transforming your life and your organization. It's a catalyst for you. That's why we have called the workshop Unleash Your Potential, Transform Your Organization and Your Life with Authentic Feminine Leadership. And you see the dates and so on there, and you can scan with the QR code or visit the link that you see there.
And just, we wanted to say that we thought about it, and we broke it over 3 sessions that are separated from each other by some time, so that there would be time for the material to marinate, within you. So the first session is going to be the foundations of authentic feminine leadership and your personal leadership style. So we want to really, in the first session, make sure that you're connecting who you are and your leadership style to these concepts, because it's going to be expressed differently for every person. And you are a unique leader. You are a valuable leader. You're a unique leader. And the more you know about yourself and the more you step into your power and your strengths and who you are, the better leader you'll be. And then in the second session, we're going to talk about barriers to authentic feminine leadership and how to overcome them. And I think, Jocelyn, this is some of what you were alluding to, is that, we can put out this and say, okay, this is a great way to be, and it has lots of positive impact on teams and on organizational culture and on productivity. But in the world, this isn't necessarily, there are problems with embodying authentic feminine leadership. There are barriers, both within ourselves and also culturally. So when Monica was saying, yeah, and you can learn how to overcome them, we're also going to be talking in the second section about your values, because your values have a lot to do with how you overcome the barriers. So we want this to be a real nuts and bolts working session that has a lot of value for you. And then in the third session, it's really focusing on making your action plan, because this isn't something that can be, kind of relayed in an hour or even in, 9 hours. It's something that is a lifelong kind of practice, and you're going to build on it. So the third session is action planning, and it's going to be fun. Like all Be Strong Families trainings, going to be fun and interactive and experience based, and not like us lecturing at you. So we encourage you to sign up, explore it. We'd love to see you again in September.
Next slide, Lori. So thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, Monica. This was awesome. I so enjoyed it. I think this was a great way to give them a taste of what's to come in September. If you thought this was off the chain today, go ahead and tell our presenters thank you by just dropping it in the chat. Let them know how much you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, go ahead and meet us in September for the 3-day intensive workshop. It's going to be off the chain. Lori, next slide. So thank you guys so much for being here. We just have a few last things we want to invite you to. Upcoming Taste of Cafes through the summer. We have Vitality Cafes that's talking about how you take care of yourself holistically. The Meet New Friends is completely Spanish speaking only. And then Strength for the Journey. Those cafes focus on parents who have children with special needs or different abilities. So check out the cafes. They're awesome. You get to meet people from all over the country completely of no cost to you. And they're led by our national team of parents from across the country. Next slide, please. You can use the QR code and join us. And then get to know our speakers and teachers. This is our speakers and teachers bureau. Do you know that if you need someone to come and talk on a topic that maybe we don't cover, you can visit our bureau and look up the people who have, these are all past webinar presenters. So if there's someone that you really, really enjoyed and you want to keep in touch with them, you'd like for them to come and do something with you, visit our speakers and teachers bureau. You can use the camera, scan the QR code, it'll take you there. It has nothing to do with us. You can contact them directly. Okay, fantastic. Next slide. Don't forget to visit our shop before you leave. There's always great games and gifts and resources. And Christmas is just around the corner. Start early. Next slide.
Love it.
And if you have benefited from any of our webinars, if you enjoy all the great info you get from us here at Be Strong Families, feel free to drop a donation. I mean, you are blessed to be a blessing. Don't forget that. Hint, hint. So if you enjoy it, feel free to leave a donation. Thanks again for being with us, guys. We really enjoy you, and we will see you we are taking the August also. We will see you in September. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Thanks
Sarita.
so
Thank
much.
you,
Bye.
Monica.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Lori.
everyone.
For joining.